You need to watch these if you want to be a successful project manager. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I help them with that? Well, I can help them with some consulting, their project, helping them structure their project, helping them to tackle a specific problem in their project. I help people with mentoring sessions to organize also a project management area, thinking about their processes and how they want to tackle this. Or I help even people to start to understand and develop project management skills to prepare their CV, to prepare for the interviews, to enter in the project management industry there. And so the content I'm going to talk about here today, it's very important. Why? First, when you talk about project management, you are going to hear a lot talking about Prince2, PMI, PMBOK, Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, Kanban, sometimes Lean, Finance, and I do talk about all those things. But what happened? All those things are important, of course, for a project manager to succeed, because you can basically you cannot organize a project if you do not understand the basics, how you are going to build a WBS, if you do not understand how Scrum should work, who should be responsible for prioritization, what size sprint. Yeah, so then you can basically you cannot execute a project if you work like that. If you do not understand finance, you cannot understand a business case, you cannot manage a business case. So that's already a lot of problems. So those are things that you're going to see more like in a kind of hard skills or kind of basic foundational knowledge that you need to have to be successful as a project manager. But what happened in reality, it's not a lot of project managers, they do not they struggle with project management not because they don't know, for example, waterfall, but because they do not understand how they apply those things, or they do not understand that they need to work on those things in an effective way, in a consistent way, to make sure that they can have results. Because in the end, if you are working, for example, with decision making, what do you need to have a good decision making process there? You're going to need to understand what's the impact in time, what's the impact in cost, what's the impact in the customer, what's the impact in the scope that you need to do. Maybe there's an impact in the team, maybe there's an impact with other stakeholders. And the only way you can know those things if you are exercising project management fundamentals. If you understand your timeline, your business case, your project scope, if you are working closely with your team, if you are working with risk management and so on. But the thing is, a lot of people they understand and say, "Oh, I get it. I need to know those things to make a proper decision." But they do not make the bridge on the I need to know those things in their routine. Why I'm talking about routine and habits, and I'm talking about that, and I talk about that a lot. Well, because in general, your performance will be tied up with your habits. Because there's research pointing out that around of 40 to 50% of any actions that you take in any given day are kind of automatic and or habitual there. That meaning that something that you're going to do without thinking there. So you want to have you have this knowledge on project management, but kind of most of your time, what's happening is basically you are taking automatic actions without thinking about those things. So that's why building the right habits there they are quite important. And I've already explained this before, but if you want to build an effective habit, you basically need three things, which you can see here in this chart. The first one that you need is desire. That you want to do something, so that's also related with your mindset, how you are going to build this, because this is quite important. You need to have the knowledge, which I just mentioned. You need to have the knowledge on waterfall, on timelines, on agile, on Scrum, on Lean, on Kanban, on business case, how those things work. And you need to have the skill. What's the skill? Well, you connect the knowledge, you want to do it, and you start to take actions doing that. So you are practicing some specific areas, and then you are building up your skills. And if you've seen the other video where I talk about how you can, why working more would just not help you to achieve there, and if you have not, you can go to my YouTube channel, you can check there. You understand that only putting extra hours will not help. You need to improve your performance. And how do you improve your performance? Working on those three things here. And in the end, those three things will start to form a habit. And in the end, you're going to be able to start perform in a much higher level without with minimal effort. Why? Because everything will be automatic there, or not everything, but a lot of things that you need to do it, they're going to will be automatically done there. And also, of course, if you know me, I just love all those different quotes, and I'm also bringing something from Stoicism here. That's something that I also like to study. That basically your habits and your capability, they are going to grow based on the actions that you take. So every action that you take, it's helping you to build a habit. It can be a good or a bad habit, and that's also not only for you, for me, and for everybody else. So the important is that you make sure that you understand what are you fueling there. What and in the code he talk about what fire are you fueling there. You're fueling a fire that will bring a lot of good habits and help you to perform in the long term, or you're fueling a fire that it's helping you to create bad habits and that will in the long term just hold you back in your career, in your life, in your progress. So this is quite important here. And again, you're not and of course there are some project managers, for example, they do not know the business case, so yeah, they're not going to have a habit to looking at business case, and that will kind of hamper all the decision making that they have, because yeah, you're going to take decisions without considering your project business case there. So that's a problem. But in general, having a basic understanding about finance, it's also not the roadblock, because there's plenty of people. Yeah, if you study for a few hours, you can gain, and if you practice a bit, you can do some exercises, and you can understand how a business case work. But what's going to hamper you? It's not doing that with consistency, and that's what you are looking for. And just to bring a bit more on the habit apart, because that's quite important. There's this book, Thinking and Fast and Slow, which is a very nice book, and I do recommend it. The author here, he's a Nobel Prize winner because of his research. He was a psychiatrist or psychologist, and so it's quite interesting to see the research there. But I'm going to break it down in a very simple way what he explains in the book. Basically, how our brains evolved, you have two types of systems or two types of brain. One is he calls the system one, that's fast. That's kind of the one taking over all the automatic things that you need to do in a day. And you have the system two, that's the one that you deliberate with conscious effort. You use that to solve a specific type of problem, for example. Why the brain evolved like that? Well, one of the explanations, and of course, I'm not a psychologist here or I'm not a physiologist here, so I'm sharing some knowledge because it helps you to understand why this is important. Well, your brain is the organ in your body that consumes most of your energy. So if you think about thousands years ago, where we were wandering around, uh, get to gather food, what happened is you need to find a you need to find a system to save some energy, because first you don't have enough food, and also for some things you need automatic answers, like if you are just walking around and you see a wolf, or you see a lion, or you see a bear, or whatever you would, or whatever dangerous animal that you can think about from your area around the world, you want your brain to react and say run, or protect yourself. And you don't want to think, you think, hmm, it's a bear. What should I do here? Should I run? Or maybe not, because the bear is too fast? Or should I stand? Or should I hide? And you don't want to have all those things, because while you're thinking, probably the animal will attack you and you're going to die. So, very, very simple example. So, your brain learned or developed or evolved, whatever you want to call it, to react very fast. And that's the kind of what's kind of system one. That will take also your automatic things that you do. For example, you don't think about breathing. That usually happens automatically. Of course, if I tell you pay attention, you're breathing, then your system two, okay, will pay attention, then you can take it over to say hold your breath, you can do it. But usually you don't do that every day during the day. You don't think about for like if you're brushing your teeth. Usually you're not thinking about, oh, how should I brush my teeth? What a lot of those things the brain, so it creates the habit and the routines, kind of the process that you follow every day, and puts in the system one that saves energy for a lot of things that you need to do. And then you have for the really things that you need to solve it. If you have a big problem, if you need to do a big analysis of a data, for example, or if you are working on a timeline or a business case that you need your attention, then you are going to use your system two. But the system two is usually much more time consuming. And why I'm saying those things? Well, because we know from what I already mentioned that kind of half of your actions in any given day they come from at least an automatic system, which is the system number one that just take over and execute it. But you want to build the right habits here to make sure that you can do the right actions in a more automatic way, or in a more effortless way. So what you need to do in the beginning, you need to pay attention and you need to use your system to execute those things. And of course, to manage to build the right habits that will bring you to the right performance. Because again, I've never seen a project management that did not, or probably there maybe there's some there, but I don't remember ever meeting a project manager that he did not know what was a critical path. So he say, I understand the concept of a critical path. What happened is those people they could not take this concept and put it in practice. So they had trouble, of course, even using the system too, sometimes to putting this into practice, but also in their automatic way because they've never exercised this habit, meaning that they've never, the meaning that they have the knowledge, but they do not have the desire or the skill to put this in practice. Then they end up not doing. So you end up with wrong critical path, with you end up with wrong prioritization, with wrong decision making, which leads for several other types of project of issues in your project, like delay, problems with business case, overload of tasks. Again, if you have not seen, if you haven't watched it yet, I do recommend you to watch the video where I talk about how to improve your performance, how to improve your capacity, your outcome there. So it's quite important that you go into that direction. And to make put this in a different type of packaging there, that's kind of how you're going to build emotional intelligence. Because what's emotional intelligence? If I put in a very simple way, usually you have a way you're going to react with something. Maybe you are in a meeting, someone tells something to you, then you get annoyed and you have a bad reaction. Or maybe you raise your voice, maybe you start a discussion. And what you want with emotional intelligence, you want that instead of when you have a trigger you react right away without thinking. That's basically your system one that's just automizing stuff and moving forward with because that's basically a routine that's programmed there in your brain. You want to have the self awareness and you want to start to make sure that your system to kick in these situations, it takes the clue there, say, hey, I'm not going to react automatically here. And there's different ways you can do it. So if you start to, if you have the urge, you can breathe, you can say, okay, what I'm going to do here, I have a choice, and you can try to control yourself, control your emotions, and then what you're going to do there, you are building emotional intelligence there. Because if you do that with consistency, then you have the desire to do that. You are working your mindset there to make sure that you are working, oh, that you have the desire to do that. You are building the knowledge. For example, what I'm doing here is helping you to build a knowledge. And then, but when it happens in practice, you are building up your skill there. Then you are building up your emotional intelligence there, which can be seen in different quadrants, so as I have here. Can be seen like in self awareness. You can be seeing self awareness is like how do affect your team, how does the team affect you, or self management. Think before you act. I just mentioned that if someone says something to you, don't need to react right away. That's self management there. Building trust. And it's very important, of course, if you are starting to build your emotional intelligence, you need to start with your self awareness, your self management. Why? because it's very nice to say I'm going to be empathetic. Because if you are empathetic with someone, but as soon as this person says something, you react in a bad way, that does not work. Uh, so if you want to active listening, also there, you need to have the self management. You need to restrain yourself to act right away there. And of course, if you want to manage your attitude, build effective teams, build rapport, you need to have the self awareness and self management. Because if you don't have the self management, you're not going to control your attitude. So your social skills also will be affected there. And why all those kind of things that I'm saying? That first, emotional intelligence will really affect your leadership skills and will really affect how you work and how you perform in your team. So what do you want? You want to use your system to build the right type of automation for your system one. And of course, I'm not telling you that this is going to happen if you do that once or twice. You need to do that with consistency. And there's also, he mentions, I think in this book, but in other types of books where you think about habits, that if you have a habit that you have been doing that for years, it takes time until your brain completely erase that programming that you build there. So you need to keep doing that. And that's, of course, why it takes time. But that's also why, if you do not understand how those things work together, if you do not understand, if you don't have the awareness about the system two and the system one and system two, and about your emotional intelligence, that will affect that. So leadership, it's also good leadership. It's a habit that you're going to build there. The emotional intelligence, it's a habit that you're going to build there. More you're going to do it, more you're going to program here your system one, and more you're going to deliver. But that goes for everything else that you do. Do you think like I know everything about the business case of my projects by checking it once and never looking to that again? No. Often, probably at least once a month, I open the business case for my projects and I take a look on that. What does it make sense? What does it not make sense? I'm missing something. I think about that. So I use my system to focus there and to get some knowledge there so I can use when a decision come, I already know that. But I how I do that, I do that by habit. I don't think every time I need to open a business case because I've been doing that for so long that my system one already kick in. Say, okay, check the business case. And of course, there are other ways that you can do that. But what I'm doing here when I'm talking about habit, you are trying to teach your system one to react and to act in a certain way because in the end, most of the actions that you take in a day, or at least half of the actions that you take in your day, will be automatic. And I've seen even research talking about the number of decisions, for example, a person takes in one day. That's about 30,000 decisions that you take in one day. Of course, not big decisions, but which clothes you should wear it, if you're going to pick something up, how when you're going to pick up your toothbrush, this kind of stuff, what you're going to eat. There's thousands of decisions that you're taking all day. And most of it, you don't think about that. So most of it, your system one is kicking in here. Why? Because it would be, can you imagine if you need to think about 30,000 of decisions in every day? The brain power that would take you and how tired you would get, you will not be able to do anything else. If you every time you need to think about, okay, consciously you need to think about, oh, I need to take my toothbrush, I need to put the paste on that, I need to put that in my mouth. So no, it goes everything automatically. But the nice thing is, more you do that, you also can put, for example, reviewing your business case in an automatic way. And of course, there's different tools that you can use. For example, I have blocks in my agenda to do my work, and I have even reminders that say check business case, check timeline. Why? I'm giving cues there to my system one to kick in and make sure that I can follow something automatically there. Of course, if I'm checking a timeline, I do need to start to pay attention on that. So my system one just help me to start in the process, then the system two needs to pick it up. But that's quite important for everything you do. And again, that will help you also this understanding helps you to build your emotional intelligence, that helps you to build the right leadership, that helps you to be a more effective team member, and that will bring you results in the good run. And every time you are doing that, then you are also making sure that you are taking direct control in what about your life, because in the end you can only control yourself. So you can think about, I'm going to be a better leader, I want to be a better project manager, I want a better results in my projects. But the only thing that you really control in this entire equation there, it's you. So what I'm telling you, that's my invite here to you, it's work on you. Work on developing the right emotional intelligence, work to develop good habits there, because those are the things that will make a difference there. Because if you're in a situation, if you're in an escalation meeting with management, you get a question about a business case in your timeline and you know that right away, that shows, oh, this person, it's on control. He or her, he or her has the control over the project. He knows what's going on. He knows the details, or he or she in this case knows the details. And this is quite important, quite relevant there. So focus in what you can control. Stop thinking about, I'm not in the right place, I'm not in the right company, I need to do something else, or I need someone to help me with take control of your own life. And remember the nice quote from Viktor Frank here saying that between the stimulus and the response, there's a space, and this is the space where lies our power to choose and respond. And meaning, what he does say by that, in other words, you can develop your emotional intelligence. And meaning, if you are developing self awareness and self management, that also means that you can start programming your system one to things that are important for you, that will help you to achieve more in your career. So this is can be quite simple, but it's quite impactful for you. And and okay, I talk about a lot system one, system two, how to build that, but I want to bring you a step a bit further. I'm using as a reference here the book called Atomic Habits. In this book, he basically talks about how you can improve and you can develop your habits. And he gives a lot of examples, a lot of different strategies to do that. What I'm going to share to you, few things that you can do it and that I do myself that will help you to continuously improve. The small steps that if you do every day, they are going to compound in 1 year, and that can make a huge difference in your career, in your life. So one of the things that he talks is a lot of times you try to take a big steps when you talk about your habits to try to change something, and that requires a lot of effort, a lot of your attention. It requires a lot of your system too, a lot of willpower, and in the long term, those things are not sustainable because your system too cannot command and cannot go for the entire day. So your willpower is limited there. When I'm telling you, saying your mind and everyone else is limited there. So that's why you want, instead of relying on your willpower to do everything, you want to build a good habit that will help you, your system one, to carry on this stuff that's important as automated tasks there. So instead of relying, trying to do a very big step that will take a lot of your system to a lot of your willpower, do it in small steps. And when I'm talking about small steps in your project, what you can do there? Well, start instead of saying I'm going to check my timeline, I'm going to work for 10 hours in my timeline. No, do small steps. Try to do 10 minutes per week. Check your timeline. Start to build on a habit, and of course, sometimes you can go a bit longer, 30 minutes until at least you have a good understanding of that. But make this a habit. Start very small. Start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because that's something that will not take a lot of your willpower, and that's something that you can do. You want to learn about your business case and say, but I do not understand. Well, start taking by 5 minutes, check what's going on there. Other thing that he talks about that's quite interesting there, that You need to make your good habits more obvious, more attractive, easier, and more satisfying. For example, here, I'm going to give you an example that he also mentions in the book. That someone that was, I think it was a guy, there he was overweight and he was trying to lose weight there. So he used to eat a lot of, I don't know, chocolate, and not healthy stuff, fast food and this kind of stuff. Did he change in his habit? Because yeah, if you have the urge to eat, and if you have food at home, he's going to eat. Then because not eating would require a lot of from his willpower. So what he did, he starts to buy enough food for one day. And for example, I don't want to eat chocolates. You don't buy chocolates. Because if you have the trigger, say the cue there, say I want the craving, I want chocolate there. If you don't have it at your home, and if you need to go to the supermarket to do that, the chances are that you are not going to do it. Why? Because that will require a lot of effort. So you're making your habit of, for example, eating chocolate or eating any type of food difficult. So you're going to tend to do it much less often. And of course, at some point you say, "I want really bad," and you go to the supermarket. Yes, but if it's like 10 p.m. and you say, "I want chocolate," and you don't have, I doubt that you would go out just to buy some. So that's a way that you can make your habit much more difficult if something that you want to stop do, or you can make easy. Another example that I do it myself. I say, I want to read more. What do I do here? I always have a book on the reach of my hand that I can read something. Or you can always carry a book with you. Nowadays, it can be very easy if you have a tablet, for example, you can carry a lot of books even in your cell phone. You can do that, but you make it easier. For example, I say I want to read something, at least something before going to bed every night. So I have a book on the side of my bed where I read every night. And if you're not reading yet, and why I'm saying reading, because it's also a good way to build your knowledge. And remember that you need the desire, you need the knowledge, and you need the skills. What we are doing here, we are taking your desire to help to build the knowledge that later on that will help you to implement your skills. That's what you do with the books. So what you are going to do? Well, you have the book there, so it's something easy. What happens if I'm in bed and say I want to read something and I don't have a book? I'm not going to read it because that's say I'm not going to go outside my bed to look for a book that interesting in the house and to read something there. So make sure that you make your good habits easier for you. This is quite important. And when you are looking for, and when I'm talking about easier here, just to close the example of the book, because a lot of people want to start reading, but a lot of people don't read a lot. Instead of putting a target, I want to read 100 pages in a day or I want 20 pages in a day, start small. Say, I'm going to read 1 page a day, and that's it. And do it for a month, for 3, 4 weeks. And after you do that for 1 month, 4 weeks, you say, now I'm going to move for 2 pages a day. And then you do it for another month. It might sound that something very small, but it starts to compound. And the compound will make a difference there for days. So making habits easier to execute, it's very important. Looking for your job there. One of the things that will make your habits, I just mentioned timeline, business case, review scope easier, is you have a slot in your agenda to do that. Because then you have an automatic reminder from your computer. You block it your time, so it's not like you're going to have a meeting this time, then you need to do something else. You just need to make sure that you use the time that you reserve to do that. So you are trying to facilitate your habit there. And then, of course, I could go for all those things, but I do not have the time to do that today. Something else that I want to mention to you, that your environment, you can build the environment around you to help you to execute a habit there. Giving cues, for example, I just mentioned in the case of the book, you are making easy what I'm going to do there. So I'm putting more books around me. I have books here in my table, in my working table. I have books in my room. I have books in my living room. I have books like even in my cell phone. So making easier and making your environment. And every time I look to the book, I remember I want to read it more. So that's a visual cue that helps me to do something there. Other things I do with my environment, they're here. I'm not sure if you can check it here. Let me see. But this, what I have here behind me, it's one of the things I'm using to build my environment. Why? It's just a poster in the wall, yes, but I look to that. It's every day, a lot of times a day, and basically what's reading there, how I can be 1% better today. So this is a cue. That's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for continuous improvement. I'm looking to step by step improving my performance. So I'm not trying to make big steps there. I'm not trying to make big leapfrogs there because in the end that tend not to work. That will require a lot of your willpower, your system too, and that will stop you there. But I'm building like a visual cue there to remind me that I want to improve. And of course, this is just one example. You can have all different types of posters, different types of messages. You can have books for doing that. You can watch videos. You can put reminders on your cell phone. For example, I have reminders in my cell phone to every day write down things I'm grateful for, and for after I do that, I plan the activities that I need to do in the next day. So I have a reminder every day, 8:30. My cell phone has an alarm that rings, say do that. And sometimes I did it because I had the time before and I do it before. Some other times I end up doing it right away or I end up doing a few minutes later. But what I'm trying to build is make sure that I remind myself. I'm trying to help build my environment also around me in different ways to help to improve my performance. And your environment can make a quite big difference in everything that you do there. So building your environment around you will help you to better perform. And when I'm talking about your environment, I'm talking about your physical environment. So you can put there posters in the walls. You can have here books in the table in front of you to remind you. You can back a book around your bed. You can have reminders in your computer, in your agenda, in your cell phone, but also your environment, the people you are working with, the people you spend time with, that also makes a big difference. Because there is even, I'm not sure if you ever heard the quote that you are the average of the three-person that that you spend most of your time with. And that's true because those people affect your perception, those people affect your action. Because if you have someone that's really, say, looking for growing, always challenging, always growing, you are going to tend to do the same because you see this person doing that and you spend a lot of time with this person and say you're going to be you tend to follow those examples. But in the other direction, if you have someone that does not like to improve, does not like to do anything else, that does not want to grow in their career, you're going to tend to follow that person. And there is even research showing that if a friend of you starts to be overweight or starts to be obese, you have, I think, 40% chance more that you are going to gain weight. Why? Because that will affect your perception. That affect the perception of your friend, that the person that you spend a lot of time with. Then this person has a higher chance to gain weight. That this person has a higher chance to develop bad habits, and that also will influence you. So make sure that you understand the environment that you are there also can be a very good way to improve your performance. So attending to trainings, attending to project management conference, all those things, they tend to help you to see good performance, to give you different insights, to help you to build good habits that will help you to develop in the long term. And I'm talking about, then again, you can read books, trainings, mentoring, and everything that you need to do. But it's very important that you do not leave the important things that you want, your performance, you do not leave those things without any type of control, because in the end you're going to have habits If you want it or not, your system one is there. That's for me and for everybody else. But you have the option to start programming your system one to help you instead to put you down or to hold you back. So this is quite important knowledge. And of course, if you want to grow as a project manager, it is essential that you have this type of understanding because then you can work in yourself in a better way. And maybe this is not a waterfall content, but this what I have been talking about that for more than half an hour. This is what's going to make a difference in the long run because remember, I've seen plenty of project managers that they know what's a critical path, but they just do not apply that. They do not put that in their routine, and they do not do this check constantly. They do not check their timeline constantly, and in the end, they have a lot of issues in their project. So the problem is not that they do not understand what's a critical path. The problem is that they do not work in the skill that they need, and they do not do this a habit. They do not make some type of if you can call it like that, automation in your own brain to help you to achieve your goals there. I hope you like this content. Make sure that you like and share this with more people so more people can have a better understanding on project management and how they can build good habits to improve their performance there. Make sure you follow my YouTube channel because there's more content every week, but also make sure you follow my Instagram account. There I have daily content for you. I have a Q&A box where you can ask questions. And of course, if you have questions you can ask here in the comments, but also you can ask in the Q&A box and I'm here to support you because if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. Thank you and see you around. Bye.